Welcome everyone to the Work Smarter, Lead Stronger podcast, where we explore the habits, the mindset, and the strategies of high performing teams and leaders. I am your host, Temi Ologbenla, and today I'm joined by a guest who brings a wealth of experience from higher education, innovation, and research funding. Thaíssa Honda is a finance and administration pro with over 9 years of experience across two countries, Brazil and Canada. She currently serves as the National Finance Manager for Lab to Market, overseeing millions of dollars, lots of zeros in research and innovation funding, driving clarity in complex systems, and supporting high performance teams. So today's conversation, we're going to talk about what it takes to lead with precision, communicate with purpose, and manage complexity without burning out, which I think Thaíssa is the best person for us to go to for this. So Thaíssa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I am so happy to have you here. So let's just start with like a systems level view. So when it comes to the way you manage things, what habits or workflows help you to stay productive during a typical week?
So hi, Temi. Thanks very much
Hello.
for having me here. Yeah, very excited to join and share a little bit about my experience. When I think about tools, I'm gonna be honest, I don't use any major crazy tools. I guess it's more,
Interesting.
I guess it's more habits what guides me the most. So I would say for me, one key thing is organization, which sounds a little bit cliche, but I guess it's essential. And if you're not able to organize yourself, everything else it's not gonna work well. So organization to me is key. And also there are other little habits that I started developing during my professional career, and I guess most specifically in the past years that helped me in terms of optimizing time and those type of things. So one of them I find it's very helpful to me to identify what times of the day or which periods the day are better for me to do certain things. So for example, my brain works well in the morning. So in the morning, I try to do those activities that require more of my brain and thinking, those type analysis, those type of things after lunch during crashes. And you know that you have seen me sometimes in class feeling pretty sleepy after lunch. So I try to after lunch, leave the activities like answering to emails or doing things that don't require as much of my brain. So that's one of things that I started using, and it also it's been helping me a lot. Another thing is try to rearrange some of your professional, but also professional and also personal schedule and activities. Of course, whenever possible, also to help with that. So, for instance, in still the same example of being productive and what time I work best. One thing that I noticed, I moved my lunchtime 1 hour later. So my mornings are longer and I can be productive for a longer time. And after that, I only have, I have lunch and then I have, let's say, 2 or 3 hours of work left. And I'm trying to optimize the time where that works in my favor. So I think those are the tools and little habits that I've been using mostly to kind of help me with, you know, being productive. And I'm I guess a planner by nature, and I find that also helps to, like try to fit everything in time slots. It doesn't need to be anything like crazy or be overly obsessed about it, but just be strategic so you can optimize your time and achieve whatever you're trying to do.
I love that because actually, when you were just speaking, I was thinking of that. I'm like, it'll be so great if you're implementing task batching with it so that, you know that, okay, the afternoon time, I'm going to, like you said, do my emails and
Hmm.
admin, type stuff during that time, right? But then I know that my mornings are more for like strategic things, right? So that is great. Thank you for those tips. I'm sure my audience is like taking notes. And so when it comes to, the moving parts of the lab to market network, right?
Hmm.
What's one shift you've made to improve how your team collaborates?
Right. So I guess to me, because the program, the network itself, they're new, so is my role. So there's other things that I'm implementing now, and relationships and communication, we started somewhat from scratch. One of the things that I've been trying to do as we go into the program is to develop or to tailor each relationship with the different parts of the network. Because if you think, in my case, I'm interacting with people in different institutions and across the country. and their expertise and also experience background, it varies a lot. So I cannot apply the same concept or the same way that I interact with people across the board. So as I started getting to know them, I'm really trying to dedicate some time to understand who is who, what are their strengths, where are their necessities. Some people will need more guidance, let's say in terms of finance. Other people, they don't need a whole explanation because their background, they've been doing budgeting for maybe longer than I have. However, they may need more guidance in other things. So yeah, I think one of the shift I've been trying to make, which I don't know if can be considered a shift because we're starting from scratch, but know who are my stakeholders, knowing where they are in in terms of experience, knowledge, skills, and then tailor my approach interactions to them based on that.
Interesting. So do you also find that, in that, I'll call it like a matrix that you just talked about, right? You're also
Mm-hmm.
considering people's preferred way of communicating, right? Because, some people, they might prefer email. Some people, they prefer,
Mm-hmm.
you pick up the phone. Some might prefer, what else is there? Chat or texting or something, right? Do you find that in that matrix, you're also including those things?
Yeah, I think that's an important part of it because, yeah, like you said, some people, they're pretty bad answering emails, but if you call them, it's their problem solved in 30 seconds. Other people, they prefer instant messages, for example. So as you get to know them, you can see what works best for each. And I do realize, depending on how many people you interact with, you cannot develop 50 or 80 different approaches. But yeah, but I guess as much as you can, or maybe, if it's the case for people, which is not my case, but if you interact with too many people, maybe group them in different little boxes, and then yeah, you can still tailor that based on your individual's design characteristics. But to your question, yeah, I do think that the way people prefer to communicate or prefer to be approached plays it's a big component of that. And once you know what works well for what, you may save yourself a lot of time and get what you want. However, I think we still need to be very mindful in terms, let's say, if I'm trying to reach out to you and I need a confirmation or an approval, let's say, on something that is big, but
Yes.
you're pretty good in replying to instant messages. That's not something that I can only have okay by an instant message, right? I need to
Sure.
have it over email as well. So
Yeah.
it's like to find that balance and, knowing that maybe you will get what you want, but does that still meet your needs?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. I mean, I feel like in that type of scenario, right, you would prompt the person on instant message first. Hey, heads
Exactly.
up, this really important email is coming up and we need your signature by. And it's always good to have like a date, give them like a time.
Mm-hmm.
We need it by end of week, end of day tomorrow, right? And then they know that, okay, if Thaíssa has reached out to me, I've taken a look at it, then I can go to the email and then look for her name or search for it or, or see it at the top of my inbox. So yeah, I feel like there's a nice way you can still, take care of people's needs, communication needs, because I'm sure you two have yours as well, right? I know I do, right? Taking care of
Mm-hmm.
it, but also making sure that, there's still structure in place, right? Like you said, if I need a signature, let's not do that by chat, please.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about leadership, right? When it comes to leadership,
Mm-hmm.
what's something, let's give us some juicy details. Like, what's something you used to believe about leadership that you've completely changed your mind on?
I really like that question because I think there's two assumptions I used to make about leaders when you look at them that now as I'm studying it and also started working in some leadership roles, I realized that they're not true. And I'm very glad that they're not.
Tell me more.
So one of them, I used to think that leadership is a personality trait or almost like a skill that people are born with. So that, like this person was born to be a leader. Everyone else, like you're either born with that or you're not. And then in that case, good luck with that. Or if we're not born with those traits, but you still ended up in a leadership position, it was because you knew someone or you got lucky. But yeah, but now I do realize and also been learning that there is it's pretty much based on skills, and those are things that people and pretty much anyone can learn. And And another one is just related to that. I used to think that leadership is for extroverts, which is not my case. Which is not my case. So I'll be like, I always thought that extrovert people would be the ones in leadership roles. Again, studying and also hearing from a whole lot of leaders that they know how to communicate. They're very engaging. But when you hear from them, no, I'm actually an introvert. And that's helped me to realize that it's a skill. Maybe some people will develop those skills more easily than others, but it's still, yeah. But again, anyone can learn, and it has nothing to do in terms of either you're an extrovert or an introvert. And since I've met very great leaders in my career that are not extroverts, and they do have some very specific strengths that now I can see that and how it's valuable. And it's just a different style maybe of leadership, but they do bring something very unique and valuable to their leadership style. And that is just not better nor worse than the extroverts. It's just different. But I just didn't realize how powerful those were as well.
So like a different flavor. I love it. It's so
Yeah.
true. It's a good way to put it. And I think that's encouragement for people that, might be leaders right now and they're wondering, my goodness, am I meant to be here because, I'm not outgoing or I'm not the loudest or I'm not, the bubbliest or whatever the case may be, right? You have value, right? And you bring a different perspective to leadership. And a different perspective is always needed in anything. One thing you said too about leadership being something that can be learned. I love you said that. One thing I also add is that it's a continuous thing. People need to continually hone these skills. You're not just going to be a leader and then say, you know what? Now that I'm a leader, there's nothing else for me to learn. There's always something, especially with the way the world is changing, culture changes, and you name it. It's something you always have to learn. And that's the beauty of this podcast, because we get to bring all these amazing people that give you a different perspective on things you can pick up and learn. So thank you very much, Thaíssa, for all these gems you're dropping. So let's talk about stakeholder management, because when you talk about those people that your network and how you're, identifying them and, working with them, next thing I think of is stakeholder management, right? So you're working with many stakeholders at different levels, right? We have like the senior level people and we have the junior and the middle. So how do you hold people accountable without micromanaging?
Yeah, so I think it's very important it doesn't matter what's the stakeholder group you're dealing with, but first of all, build relationships with them. And that goes back to my point in terms of trying to develop and tailor your relationship, how you approach, make them somewhat personable. So you create that connection. That way, I think it also a path to create, right? Very important. And also to show people that what is the value of what they're doing and how that it shows in the big picture. Because sometimes, let's say me in my role as a finance manager, I may have some requests or things that I'm going to ask you, Temi, one of my stakeholders, but in your mind, that doesn't make sense. I'm just asking because I want to ask and create more work for you. Right. So I think it's really important for people to understand what is the rationale behind of what you're asking them to do and how it fits. Because if we're working stakeholders, there will always be a common goal or at least one direction that everybody is trying to go to, right? Yeah, hopefully, ideally. So I guess to link how that request or whatever it is fits into that common goal or direction that both parts are interested.
That's a great way to, create buy-in. I would say everyone's smart in their own way. So, bringing people along, not just being directive. And sometimes people do need to know why, right? I understand that, we're in a fast-paced world and you might not be able to do it every time, but I think it goes back to what Thaíssa had mentioned about understanding the person. Some people are okay without getting all that information, and some people, they need it. It's just being able to manage people that way. And I really love your take on human-centric leadership. That's what I call it. Like, you're really good at that. So we're in the world of hybrid for now until all the powers that be say everyone needs to go back into the office. Let's see how that plays out. What's the biggest challenge you would say you have faced in such an environment? So that's the first part. So let's talk about that, then we'll talk about the second part.
Okay. Yeah. Part of what I mentioned also would apply to the question. So building the relationship and knowing who is so, it's much easier to get a sense of who the person is or what are their style if you see them in person, just get the sense. So this person, is more serious. This person loves chatting and I don't know, talking about sports. That is pretty limited when your team's in different places or also when you're in a hybrid mode. My approach to that was trying to set up as I was trying to understand who are my people that I was going to be working with, setting up individual meetings. And by individual, I don't mean like one-on-one custom group, but teams. Instead of creating, okay, we did have say one general meeting, but then I started scheduling meetings with each one of the specific teams. And then if I found, let's say that in one specific team there was too many people and I wasn't able to connect to each one of them in the level that I wanted, I would split the group of people and try, okay, pick just these two people here and have a separate conversation. Because I guess one of the problems with the hybrid mode or when you're dealing with different people in different locations is we tend to have those big meetings, general updates, for example, with everybody. And you can't really connect with people. There will be people that are different levels or different institutions, and it just doesn't feel formal, probably for the majority of the meeting, what the leader is saying or what doesn't matter who is saying, it doesn't really relate to them. It's not speaking to them. So I think that's a part of the disconnection problem that we have nowadays. So I think once you're able to identify where like those little groups, those niches that you want to connect to and being able to separate and have individual meetings with them, it's still going to be online, fine. But that's when you start to be more assertive, maybe making up for some of this lack of connection that we have in the virtual and hybrid world.
Yes, that's really good. And you answered the second part of my question, because I was going to ask you how you've overcome it, which you just mentioned. But yes, I think it's a good idea for leaders, be it virtual, because even sometimes in person too, there'll be people that don't speak up. There are people that don't speak up during the meetings. There are people that might be on their computers or their phone. So they're still disconnected and distracted in some sort of way, be it virtual or otherwise. But I do think, like what you just said, right? Just finding ways to make it seem more,
No,
more personal. So that when people to go back and they're chatting, in IM or sending emails, they have a face. I find that also helps with friction, right? Helps to reduce friction because people remember that, okay, let me watch my tone because, so person is a human being. Sometimes people forget that, in the workplace. So thank you. Let's make things more interesting, even though it's so interesting right now. Time to switch gears, Thaíssa.
all right.
Let's switch to rapid fire. So you give me short answers, your gut instincts on these questions. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
So tell me, how do you reset and refocus after a stressful day?
Exercising, stretching.
Yes, it's so important. After sitting for so long, what's your biggest meeting pet peeve?
Small talks in the beginning of the meeting. When people are waiting for everybody to join, those small talks,
It's like, get to it.
not for me.
So one productivity hack that actually works for you.
I guess, okay, let me think. Yeah, I guess like you said, the trying to organize your time based on productivity and time slots. Yeah.
Seriously, guys, I am a big proponent for task batching. It's so important, and time blocking, they go hand in hand. So if you're not doing it, do it this week and thank us later. Send us a message on LinkedIn and be like, thank you so much for saving my workday. You're welcome in
Yeah,
advance.
it's very helpful.
So when it comes to virtual meetings, you prefer the camera on or off? Yes.
Unless it's those huge meetings or our workshop when there will be a main speaker, then I guess there's no point. But otherwise, oh.
That's fair. That's fair. So diplomatic. I love it. Are you team email or are you team instant messenger?
It really depends, I guess, on the situation. If it's for quick things, I find it too formal. And you don't need all of that. Let's just go, straight to the point. Message is faster. Yeah. But again, if it's something that you actually need to formalize in some way or something that you want to keep track, because the problem with messages is that we keep track of them, right? I was like, oh, Temi sent me that, but okay, what is it? And it's like your inbox is not there, and good luck finding in your chat.
Oh my goodness. I actually teach people a structure. So like I teach them that, okay, use IMs, use instruments just for this type of work. Use emails for this type of work too, right? Because I mean, we've been there, like you just said, you're looking for something. It could even be worse. You're like, oh, did they tell me verbally? So now you have three different. Did I write it in a notebook? I advise people to have structure. Corporations and hotel teams, like in your SOPs, right, are IMs are for this type of conversations. Our emails are for this type of conversations. Our face-to-face are for this type of conversation, so that everybody is also aligned, because it's not very great when my perception of things is, okay, use IMs for XYZ and I use email for ABC, but Thaíssa does it the other way. And then there's just confusion.
Yeah, that's true.
Thaíssa, tell us, what's the best advice you've ever received about collaboration?
There's one concept that I studied recently, which is the choice that comes from Mi'kmaq. So the choice pretty much, it's about seeing from two perspectives. It also talks about the Western view and then the Indigenous view. But yeah, it's about bringing both perspectives to the table and considering both in your decision or in the actions you're going to take. Because I guess a lot of time when it comes to collaboration, we need two sides to collaborate, right? In order to have a collaboration. And oftentimes we take one side, we just assume that's, okay, this is the right thing, or that's the right position, this is the right view. And we tend to ignore the other one. And I guess that's when collaboration fails.
That is so true. So important, right? It goes back to what we're just talking about, how everybody's smart, right? Acknowledging that everybody has a point of view, and, just even just listening and seeing, okay, what parts of it can I take? I think it's a humility thing. Leadership too is about being humble. And it's, I feel like, kind of something sometimes people just forget.
And also trying to understand if there is something that is stopping people from cooperating or moving forward. Just try to understand, or at least ask, okay, but why? Is that your view? Okay, but why? Let me understand. We can still decide on when I was saying, for example, but we do need to take
that respect is important. You can imagine how they would feel, knowing that their leader listened to them. It speaks volume, right? So can you tell me one thing you wish leaders would do in a meeting?
I wish they paid attention to people who normally don't speak up. And yeah, and especially, if that's a common pattern. And I'm not saying just put these people on the spotlight in a meeting with a whole bunch of people. Just be mindful maybe of things or people that are not saying anything. And could be maybe because they don't feel comfortable or different reasons, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a point of view.
So true.
And yeah, and again, going back to personalities, if we think that there's normally those people who will talk and speak up and normally try to take the majority part of the meeting with their ideas and what they're saying, which is no problem. But then the people who stay silent, maybe they have different ideas, is still valid, but they're just not saying it because it's not their personality. And I feel like from what I've seen, these opinions or ideas that are not said out loud sometimes in those type of meetings, they are very, very valuable. And that's when people go like, oh, right, like that's a good point. We should think about that. Yes.
Yes, that is so true. So leaders, listen up. So Thaíssa, this is going to be your mic drop final question. What's one thing leaders could do this week to lead with more clarity or care?
Tough one. I think it's just trying to be more transparent. In terms of, we're going to start a meeting, if people ask questions, or if you're in a situation that, tough situations, people are expecting you to say something, but you don't know, just say you don't know. Don't come up with vague answers that everybody will be just like,
and everybody can see
come
through
on.
it.
Yeah. So just saying, I don't know, it's fine. Saying, I don't know, just being transparent. Yeah. And not trying to make up answers just so it doesn't sound like you don't know something. That's fine. And I think people should be fine with that.
2 key takeaways, I would say, from this conversation: trust and humility. And I think they go hand in hand, because in that type of scenario, the leader is losing the employee's trust. If we can't trust you in this, then what else are you hiding? What else are you not, misleading us on? Leadership is a mindset. Was another one for me. Being willing to grow in leadership is very important. You've also showed us how accountability can thrive without micromanagement. I think that's a great one that people take away. So Thaíssa, thank you so much for joining me and for sharing such thoughtful, actionable insights. People are going to be like, where can I find Thaíssa? So can you just share how people can connect with you? Yeah, sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Thaíssa Honda. So THAISSA Honda, like the car. That one is a little bit easier. Yeah. So please feel free to reach out, send messages. I do like connecting with people, and although
I'm currently now in finance, but I do have different experience in the administrative world, and now more recently in this innovation entrepreneurship roles.
Thank you. And I'll also include Thaíssa's LinkedIn profile in the show notes to make it easy for you all to grab it. So thank you once more, Thaíssa. Oh my goodness.
Thank
Thank you so,
you.
so much.
Thanks, Temi. Yeah, that was really fun.
Yay, I'm
Yeah,
glad.
and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning into another episode of Work Smarter and Lead Stronger. Until next time, bye.